You ever scroll past a feel-good clip, see Meghan Markle gliding down a plane aisle, and think, well, that's perfectly wholesome, then get that gut twinge that something's off? That glossy American Airlines stroll wasn't just a cute in-flight cameo, it was the curtain hiding a storm. Because while Meghan handed out smiles at 30,000 feet, a British Airways attendant was about to drop a whisper that could shatter the Sussex fairy tale. She says the baby on that royal tour barely glanced Meghan's way, and Meghan barely glanced back. No coos, no cuddles, just chilly distance, while a nanny did all the work. One odd moment? Maybe. But pair it with a resurfaced folding bump video, blurred baby photos, and a secret surrogate named DL ready to prove everything with a DNA test, and suddenly that mile-high photo op looks less like family bliss and more like the opening scene of a royal thriller. Stick around, because if even half of this checks out, the monarchy's line of succession might be the next thing to buckle under the pressure. It took exactly one leaked voice note to flip a feel-good PR clip into a royal migraine. In the recording, shared by a veteran British Airways attendant who worked the 2019 Southern Africa tour, she claims Meghan never once looked at the baby, never soothed a cry, never even reached for a bottle. Every whimper was handed straight to the nanny, while Meghan scrolled her phone or chatted with staff, like the child was a prop. The attendant says the vibe felt so wrong that crew members compared notes in the galley: no eye contact, no nickname, no soft pat on the back, just icy detachment for 11 straight hours. One steward allegedly joked, "We've seen stronger chemistry between strangers in seat 17B." That offhand remark would become Exhibit A when the audio hit Reddit and TikTok last month, igniting side-by-side clips of Meghan's smile tour on an American Airlines flight versus the BA Cruise Ice Queen story. A single awkward flight could be brushed off as jet lag until you stack it on top of those angle-restricted baby photos and the infamous folding baby bump video. Suddenly, the attendant's testimony felt less like gossip and more like the missing puzzle piece in a rumor that refuses to die. And if her account holds up, it drags the next whistleblower, an alleged surrogate named DL, into the spotlight, setting the stage for a DNA showdown that could rewrite the line of succession. The whispers really took off the moment Meghan's baby bump seemed to fold as she crouched during a 2019 walkabout. Footage tabloids replayed so often it became the conspiracy crowd's highlight reel. Mainstream outlets eventually covered the clip too, noting how it reignited claims of a prosthetic belly and a possible surrogate behind the scenes. Those suspicions only deepened when the Sussex's baby photos arrived in curious fragments: the now famous close-up of Archie's toes, a Father's Day shot framed so tight you could barely see his face, and later, an awkward Christmas card widely accused of being AI edited. Online sleuths compared nail beds, skin tones, even ear shapes, arguing none matched Meghan's. Meanwhile, royal-watching YouTube channels and gossip columns kept pointing to one glaring hole: the absence of any publicly verifiable hospital records or traditional royal medical photocall. Some claim palace staff flagged the documentation gap years ago but were told to let sleeping corgis lie. Each discrepancy might seem trivial alone, yet strung together they formed a pattern skeptics couldn't ignore. And into that growing void stepped a woman known only as DL, promising DNA proof that could blow the palace doors wide open. Just when the flight attendant leak had everyone squinting at old baby photos, a new voice cut through the static, a woman known only by two letters, DL. In a late-night podcast cameo, she claimed the rumors weren't rumors at all. She carried both Archie and Lilibet. Her story sounded ripped from a cloak-and-dagger thriller. Flown to a walled-off California compound, phone confiscated, she says she signed an ironclad NDA thicker than a royal memoir. There was no formal surrogacy contract, no court filing, just a handshake, cash, and a promise to disappear. DL insists she kept meticulous receipts anyway. Time-stamped ultrasound scans, encrypted hospital wristband photos, even shaky footage of herself, exhausted, belly-heavy, reading off the date and location in a bare clinic room. She's offered a supervised DNA test, publicly, daring the Sussex lawyers to meet her in a lab instead of a courtroom. Why come forward now? According to DL, Meghan ghosted her after the second birth, No thanks, no hush payments, just erasure. Watching Meghan's tearful motherhood interviews felt, in her words, like someone else wearing my life as a costume. So DL decided to reclaim her narrative before history inked her out altogether. If even a fraction of her evidence survives scrutiny, the fallout won't stop at tabloids. Royal succession lawyers are already dusting off century-old statutes to see what happens when heirs are born outside the palace rulebook. And with DL's DNA gauntlet now on the table, the next headline might come from a genetics lab, not the gossip pages. Buckingham Palace's legal wing has one iron rule: never let lineage get messy. Yet DL's DNA dare threatens to do exactly that because British succession law is brutally clear. An heir must be the offspring of both parties to the royal marriage, born of the mother's body, not a surrogate's. That language sits in Hansard debates behind the Succession to the Crown Act 2013 and echoes centuries-old common law precedent. If Archie and Lilibet were carried by someone else, they're technically not heirs of the body. And unlike regular aristocratic titles, where adoption paperwork can sometimes paper over gaps, crown succession has no such backdoor. Academic analyses point out that surrogacy remains the one parental arrangement that fails to confer hereditary rights without fresh legislation. Inside palace corridors, contingency teams are reportedly dusting off obscure statutes and sounding out constitutional scholars. One proposal floating in private: strip the children's princely styles now, then reinstate them if a court ever validates Meghan's maternity. Meanwhile, Montecito lawyers are said to be scouring surrogacy case law for any loophole that might retrofit legitimacy after the fact. Everything from post-birth parental orders to emergency peerage letters patent. Outside counsel warn it's a legal long shot at best, and the timer's ticking. Should DL turn up at a lab with an independent supervisor, one cheek swab could thrust the monarchy into a constitutional gray zone nobody has mapped. That's why, according to insiders, King Charles has been urged to take narrative control before lawyers in London, California, and potentially Strasbourg's human rights courts start rewriting royal history for him. One blunt memo reportedly put it this way: fail the DNA test, lose the line, pass it, and the rumors die forever. Either outcome is explosive, and the clock is loud. Hours after the British Airways leak began trending, Meghan's social team rolled out a picture-perfect distraction. First came the viral American Airlines walkthrough, Meghan gliding down the aisle, trading jokes with cabin crew, capping the flight with a handwritten thank you note that made lifestyle blogs swoon. The timing felt less like coincidence and more like crisis choreography, an instant "see, I'm just a regular mom traveling coach" moment, designed to drown out the whistleblower's claims. Then the internet was showered with warm and fuzzy family footage. A Father's Day montage showed Harry chasing Archie through a sunlit garden, Lilibet giggling on a beach, and kitchen dance-offs straight out of a streaming ad. View counts soared, but so did forensic freeze frames. Skeptics pointed out that the little girl's eye shape and the boy's hair color didn't quite line up with either parent. TikTok side-by-sides of baby photos and old royal tour clips racked up millions of views, fueling even deeper Reddit autopsies. The harder the Sussex PR machine pushed the happy family narrative, the more corporate partners tiptoed away. A luxury baby brand quietly scrubbed a planned collaboration from its site, and Meghan's own as-ever venture stumbled again: refunds, stock errors, and mounting whispers that backers were getting cold feet. A YouTube business analyst declared the brand in freefall, while the New York Post tallied fresh customer complaints and product pullbacks. What was meant to be a rapid image reset instead amplified the noise. Each polished post triggered a new round of comparisons, and every glitch in the lifestyle empire fed the feeling that the facade was cracking. Inside Montecito, staffers whispered about emergency strategy calls and a boss scrolling social feeds at 3 a.m., setting the stage for a full-blown meltdown none of them felt ready to manage. No sooner had the happy family reels hit social media than panic spread through the Sussex compound. 4 senior aides, 2 press officers, and 2 private office staffers walked out in a single week, the latest exits in what one royal expert called a bloodbath of turnover that's seen roughly 20 employees cycle through since 2020. A Page 6 source says the departures followed a string of late-night crisis meetings where Meghan, bleary-eyed at 3 a.m., demanded real-time updates on every Reddit thread and TikTok stitch mentioning the surrogate rumor. Staffers describe an atmosphere of permanent launch mode, with new messaging drafts ripped up as fast as they're written. The commercial fallout has been just as bruising. As ever, Meghan's fledgling lifestyle label can't keep products in stock, triggering refund waves and customer complaints that even her podcast acknowledgments haven't calmed. A luxury nursery brand quietly erased a planned collab the day the surrogate story trended, and PR analysts now flag the Sussex name as a volatile partner for mainstream advertisers. Harry, meanwhile, has all but vanished. Friends tell royal reporters he's stopped returning calls, nursing private regrets about the spiraling rift with his family, while tabloids document every public stumble, from courtside boos at a Lakers game to yet another trooping the color snub. In Montecito, aides say the couple now measures silence like currency. The fewer words spoken, the fewer headlines spawned, but quiet can't muffle a DNA test, and that looming possibility has everyone checking their phones for an email-stamped results attached. What happens next isn't just about optics, it's about whether a centuries-old crown can withstand a 21st-century paternity cliffhanger, and DL, the woman holding the swabs and the receipts, hasn't blinked yet. DL has thrown down the gauntlet, a live-streamed, third-party, supervised cheek swab for herself, Archie, and Lilibet. She's already spoken with two independent genetics outfits, one in Los Angeles and another at a London teaching hospital, both willing to collect and verify samples under open-camera conditions. Meanwhile, the Sussex legal team is reportedly canvassing private labs to delay or seal any results, arguing the children's medical data should remain wholly confidential. Buckingham Palace, sensing an institutional earthquake, has begun its own quiet outreach. Insiders say senior courtiers approached the National DNA Database Authority to explore how a royal paternity test could be authenticated yet kept off public ledgers, an option experts warn would inflame transparency critics. Legal scholars are already gaming the outcomes. A positive match to DL could see Archie and Lilibet bumped entirely from the line of succession, while a negative match would likely force Parliament to legislate explicit rules for future royal surrogacies. One constitutional historian summed it up bluntly: either way, centuries of unwritten protocol crash into 21st century genetics the moment those swabs hit the lab. DL isn't flinching. She's declined six-figure tabloid offers, telling one podcast host she'll accept no narrative leash, only an accredited scientist and a rolling camera. The countdown has begun, and every stakeholder, palace lawyers, Montecito strategists, and royal-watching social feeds, is refreshing their inboxes for the email-stamped results attached. If those results go public, they won't just rattle a family, they'll rewrite the royal rulebook in real time. From one icy flight attendant's voice note to DL's unwavering demand for DNA transparency, every new twist has pried another brick from the Sussex fairy tale facade. Add in the folding bump clip, the blink and you miss them baby photos, a Montecito PR machine running on fumes, and an anxious palace legal corps paging through centuries-old succession statutes, and suddenly, a glossy airplane stroll feels like the calm before a constitutional storm. Yet the real stakes aren't tabloid clicks or sponsorship deals. They're the foundations of an institution built on bloodlines. If DL's cheek swab proves her claim, titles vanish, the line of succession rewrites itself, and public trust in royal narratives may shatter beyond repair. If the swab clears Meghan, Parliament may still need fresh legislation to stop the next rumor from detonating the crown. Either way, the moment science meets monarchy, centuries of tradition will collide with a single strand of DNA. So here's the question that lingers long after the video ends: should royal birth symbols of inherited power be shielded by privacy or verified by transparency? Drop your thoughts below, because this story isn't just about one family's secrets, it's about how much proof a modern public now demands before it bows to a crown.